Today I'm going to be kitbashing my own Brutalis Dreadnought for my underground mining space marine chapter. Side note, potential names for my chapter: Diggity Dig Dog, Diggity Dig Dudes. I don't know about that one. Now I've got nothing against the standard Brutalis Dreadnought. Oh, go on now. Yeah. But since I want every single model in this army to be unique and kitbashed, I decided to make my own. I've been looking outside of the standard 40k model set to try and find something I like, and I came across this Aethon Heavy Sentinel. Thought it already looked like some sort of industrial machinery, and if I strap on some siege drills from the 30k Contemptor Dreadnought sprue, it would be a perfect proxy for the Brutalis Dreadnought. That's the plan. Let's get to kitbashing this drill knot. The Sentinel goes together relatively easy, and of course I need to shave off any Imperial symbols, even the ones from 10,000 years ago. I keep the legs separate for now, as I might not leave them in the position of which they were intended. Next, I start the siege drill bits from the 30k Contemptor Dreadnought. I was so happy to find these. They look absolutely perfect for my army, and I noticed this strange little symbol hidden inside of the drill hand.
Praise be the great horned rat!
After putting together everything with poster tech, I start laying out the configuration of the arms and the leg. Realizing that these legs are kind of stumpy, I think they need to be more in the front, and the legs need to be pulled back to the rear of the quote-unquote Dreadnought capsule. I placed them higher up where traditionally the weapons would go. This gives the Dreadnought a hunched over, frog-like stance, which I kind of like, as this little guy would be digging his way through tight caverns and corridors. It was then I realized that I was missing a foot, so I went ahead to email James Workshop, and they sent me an entire new box. Cool! Looks like the Ballistic Dreadnought will be joining my army sooner than I thought. The arms and legs were glued into place with the assistance of some green stuff, and now it's time for basing. The Sentinel has an 80mm base, but the Brutalis has a 90. Luckily, the wider stance beefs him up a little bit. Once again, I use some thick cork to create a rocky cavern floor and sprinkle in some pebbles and sand on a whole bunch of PVA glue. Now I do my usual method where I drill in, throw in some little pieces of paperclip, and super glue it to the base. Finishing touch of building it is to throw on the siege drills and the melta gun on top. Now that it's all together, it's time for... Instead of priming this white like I did with the intercessors, this will be primed black, as I'm going to try a new method for creating paint chips and scratches. Spoiler alert, it does not go well! After priming black, I spray the whole thing with a dark brown and bust out the liquid mask. It looks gross. Okay, mix it up a whole lot. Then I can begin to apply this to the edges with a sponge. This will hopefully protect the brown paint so I can apply the other colors, then remove the liquid mask underneath and reveal the brown paint, giving the illusion of chipped paint. After the liquid mask had dried, I did my usual orange recipe, which is bright white, and then a Magmadroth flame contrast paint sprayed over the top. Then I picked up the gray parts and realized that I had skipped a step with the orange paint. I usually highlight with white and then an orange yellow ink. Oops, I guess I'll do that now and try and avoid the gray parts. It was around now that my palms began to itch. Much like Cyphus Cain, I began to suspect I had too many layers of paint on top of my liquid mask for it to come off effectively. As it turns out, I was right. I could either try and dig it out, damaging the paint and even exposing the bare plastic underneath, or I could just live with it. Luckily, my army scheme is rusty, damaged, and dirty, so having some weird clumpy parts scattered around this rather large model isn't the end of the world. I could say that mistakes are a great opportunity to learn and grow as a person, but it just kinda sucks. Now I pick out anything that will be metallic and paint it with a dark gray. Also I pick out the melted gun with a nice light gray, almost white. Now as someone who does not have the most steady hands, I probably shouldn't do freehand stripes on every single model, but here we are, gotta live with the choices I made. Let's get some blue stripes on the gun and on the front of the chassis. I tend to start in the middle because no matter what, my lines will get bigger and bigger as I try and correct them. On top of that, when it was time to do the transfers, the micro set was interacting a bit with the exposed pieces of liquid mask. This tore off even more paint and made the decal very difficult to deal with. I eventually got on there, but there are some bubbles and folds I'm not happy with. Oh well, you live and learn, unless you never learn to look both ways and get hit by a bus. Huh. Anyway, let's move on. I got the model all glossed, varnished, ready for some oils. I'm thinking I'm not adding enough gloss varnish as it's not flowing in the way it should. I'll experiment more with this in the future. The gloss varnish allows the oils to flow more smoothly since it's such a large model. This time I'm going to be pin washing instead of dipping the whole thing. Enjoy these sweet close-ups of some capillary action. The next day, after the oils had dried, I started adding some chips and my standard trusty won't mess up the entire model way. A sponge and some dark brown paint. After getting the larger ones down, I go back with a brush for some tiny chips and scratches. Now to bring it all together, a satin varnish over the whole thing. When you're mixing oils and acrylics and contrast paints and inks, everything has a slightly different finish, so a nice unifying varnish really helps bring it all together. Satin is a nice middle ground between glossy and matte. I start working on the base, trying to airbrush it purple, and then realizing that's way too bright. Okay, let's make it a little darker. There we go. Okay, it looks way better. And come back to the base later to finish, because I do things out of order sometimes. Alright. We're going to get real fancy here and do some muzzle burn. You know when metal kind of gets hot and starts to get discolored? Figured it's a melting gun, it's got to get hot. I start by airbrushing some sepia over the whole thing, and then a little bit of red ink, and then a little bit of purple ink, and then a little bit of blue ink. Nice gradient, airbrushes rule. This is so much easier. Oh, last time I did this, I did not have an airbrush. Oh yeah, we got some little lens light things down there. Let's do some green and blue. And add some really watered down purple paint to act like dust all over the legs and any nooks and crannies you want it in. And there we go, a finished product. A 100% completely unique kitbash for my underground mining space marine army. And I love this drill nut so much. A lot of issues along the way, but I'm happy with the final result. The orange is so much more bright and vivid than the intercessors I did. I'm not sure what I did wrong. I think on the intercessors, my varnish may have had a little bit of paint in it, so that dulled down some colors, but this guy, mwah, he's beautiful. That brings the grand total up for this army to 240 out of 2,000. We got a long ways to go. Let me know if you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.